special good morning to our listeners and viewers. Welcome to The Point for today, Wednesday. It's the 27th day of August, 2025. Good morning to those of you listening and viewing wherever you may be, in the comfort of your homes. You're probably on the JOB. Good morning to you once again. Those of you who are listening via social media platforms, Facebook page, YouTube channels, good morning and welcome. Thanks for being with us this morning. It's To The Point. It's Wednesday, and it's usually Government Wednesday as referred to here on The Point. And with me this morning, we have the Honorable RedHead with us this morning. Of course, good morning to you, sir. Welcome.
Good morning,
welcome.
GT.
It's always a pleasure to have you.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, good morning to you and the staff at GBN and also all listeners, both home and abroad.
How you been doing, sir? Carl, we'll just wrap up.
Yeah.
I didn't
play a match. But I enjoyed it. I looked at it and so on. It was really nice. So kudos to Spice Mass Corporation. I think they did excellent. And it should just be up from here. Continue to work hard and do what you have to do.
Yep. You know, as a slogan, when it's always the best mass by far.
Best mass by far.
The best mass by far. I want to start this morning conversation, of course, you being the parliamentary rep for the St. George's Northeast.
Right.
You know, I want to talk to you about that. What's up with St. George's Northeast?
Right.
What's going on there for starts?
Right.
That's good. And that's simple way of starting the conversation. What's going on with St. George's Northeast?
Right. Well, I'm pleased to report that I think the last time I was here, we mentioned that we were going to start the WASH program after Carnival. So I'm pleased to report that it has commenced. We have started in several communities. This is a pilot in St. George Northeast again that we have introduced through the government of Grenada and Nation Builders. And we are collaborating with local contractors in the community and residents alike to be able to build out that infrastructure and capacity for bath and toilet facilities for homes that are without it completely. So we have started. We are in the foundation phase, and so soon enough we would see some being erected slowly but surely. We can't do every one all at the same time, and so we've started and we are going to do them bit by bit. But so far I want to report that. The second thing I think I want to report is that by and large, as it relates to infrastructure, and not just infrastructure in its name, but key infrastructure, I think we're making steady progress there. We are tying up the road up at Top Boca.
Yeah, I think I saw you post some pictures of that last evening.
That's correct.
That's a critical piece of work.
Very critical.
For years,
long
that's been something that a particular terrain has been of concern to drivers for a pretty long time.
Even for the tourists, because in some instances, if there's a block up at the higher part of Snow Corner, they would have to pass through Boca and to go up to Vendome, etc. And in the past, this place used to be extremely risky. We have had information where people historically they fell off the cliff, they died, etc. Vehicular accidents in the area. So this was long overdue. We're satisfied that the contractor did a very well job, and I want to thank the Ministry of Infrastructure in particular for really working along with me to make this a reality. I think it is important that when we talk about just a member of parliament making sure that the resources goes towards this specific project, but we highlight the contractor, we highlight the workers in the Ministry of Infrastructure who on a daily and regular basis make these things happen. So we were very happy for that.
You know, happy to hear that, because you remember a couple of years ago there was some work being done in the Constantine area,
right? And
you remember that work, they had a slippage there, and I remember that Boca Road being one of the main passages for folks going to Grenville and coming from and so forth and from Vendome. And I remember the chaos that used to be taking
especially around that
one time. So I'm certainly happy to know that has been taken care of.
Yes.
I want to focus still on St. George's Northeast. Accomplishments, sir. I've been hearing lots of accomplishments. I'm still hearing about things that could have been done more.
Right.
Talk to me about some of the major accomplishments. Some of the things that you think could have been advanced more. Have you been in government for the last 3 years and still hasn't, and reason why you haven't accomplished as much? There are various reasons for that. Talk to me about the accomplishments in George's Northeast.
Right. Well, that's correct. I think what I would like to see more of is a lot more programs. We campaign, for example, on the issue of single mothers, and a lot more programs and maybe even policy directed to the issue of rental of homes, for example, because the government in no way, shape or form can provide housing for every person who needs it, much less who wants. And then it becomes a burden when the issue of rent also is a problem where people are being outpriced and they can't afford rent because, salary may not not be at best, and the level of job that they could attain may not be the best. So it makes it difficult. That's an area that I'm particularly concerned with. I think we need to do a lot more in terms of, as I mentioned, policy and even legislation to see how we could drive the cost of rent down for homeowners, particularly single mothers who are raising children and have to make ends meet with limited income. Outside of that, I would add that we have some outstanding projects which we inherited from the last administration to complete. I think one of the challenge, particularly with the Willis Road, for example, was that the quality of the work that was done, one, and two, the manner in which the work was done was just all over the place, and therefore it resulted in a very disorganized pattern, lack of supervision, etc., for what we had today. But notwithstanding that, I think the outstanding issue is a bridge, and in particular to widen Constantine Road. I am pleased to report that we have been able to assess the flooding issue in the area, specific to Constantine. There is what you call a bumpy corner. We are satisfied that the water seemed to be coming up from the Vendome area, and the water seemed to be running even higher up from the mountains through the Vendome area. Okay. And it's coming down there. It's causing somewhat of a slow land slippage based on observation. And so far, we have targeted drainage systems up in Vendome to be able to see how we can redirect the water and ultimately protect the residents lower down. Okay. So it took us a little while to understand that and understand circumstances there. So we have more work to do as relates to rolling out the whole question of flood mitigation and ensuring that we complete the task. I am not going to sit here and pretend that we could resolve all the flooding problems in St. George Northeast, and there still may be residents who have difficulty, with water and rain when it falls, etc. And we are sorry that they are going through that, but we are working overtime to see how we could get the job done.
All right. Yesterday, sir, I spoke to the caretaker for the New National Party, and he spoke a wee bit about the instability of youth within the constituency. Yeah. Your take on that?
Well, it all depends on the lens that you're wearing, that you would see. Some people see the glass half full, some people see it half empty. I differ. It's clear. I think the National Democratic Congress government has done a great deal in terms of being able to promote. One key element is that of education. Yeah. All right. So wherever the education minister is this morning, I say kudos to him. I think his ministry in the last 3 years done exceptionally well to be able to pivot that question of the education, and not just the education in its formal sense, but the whole question of the skills and providing some measure of comfort and even structure as to how a young person can be able to obtain jobs. The other thing is, just yesterday, I was speaking to a business owner who reached out seeking to, through my office, to see how we mobilize to get people for work. Now, business places are giving out or putting out ads for jobs. It's clear, it's evident. Young people, in some instances, may not be putting themselves forward. In some instances, they have been disappointed so much that they don't even have the interest.
Plays a major
right,
part
and then also, the whole question of qualification. So it is clear in my mind that when we came into office, the structure that we saw for youth development was a failed model and ultimately led to the proliferation of mismatches that we have throughout the country, including particular as relates to skills. And so what we have been doing systematically is to be able to build out the institutions, the formal institutions that could be able to help bridge that gap. So for example, what we need in Grenada is the National Training and Employment Agency for the young people. What we need to do is to be able to have business places with good repute, and they have available positions, be able to pass this information through that agency. That agency have the mechanism to be able to go to the communities, get the information of the unemployed people, and those who are not so skilled, you could direct them or redirect them to the training. and we have been advancing this cause. I think the sticking point for us is the vast number of young people that were on the Imani program. And therefore, one of the things that we did was to stop taking new entrants onto the program so that you could be able to resolve it. Because if you have a flawed system and you keep adding people to it, it becomes a problem where, all right, this batch end, but you have this new batch, and then you have this new batch, and so on. So it was a repeat. But these things cannot be resolved overnight, and therefore it takes careful planning. The mistake was made in the past, and therefore it is time to correct it. So as it relates to employment in my constituency, I am confident that we have seen an increase in that. Unemployment has decreased in St. George Northeast. It is not at the levels to which we want it to be, of course, naturally. However, by and large, there is a stark improvement from, I would say, 3 years ago, what the situation was looking like. We help a lot of people become self-employed, utilize their skill. Just this week, we gave out 2 weed eater assistance to small businesses. The prerequisite is that we want to get them registered as businesses so that they can be involved in the formal sector or formal economy of Grenada. So while they have the ambition, they may be able to have the skill, they need to enter into the formal sector. They need to open a bank account. They need to become organized. Predominantly is young people who are coming forward. And the other thing is that when they get this assistance, while they are not giving us anything back direct, but what we ask them is if Tanti Mary yard need a little cutting, for example, please utilize the tool and go and give Tanti Mary some assistance. So that is going pretty well. I'm satisfied that the majority of the young men in particular who come for the assistance and who might be serious about taking themselves and their family forward, and by extension the community, they mean well, and we have to support them. So this is ongoing. I wouldn't post everything that we have been doing in the community just for the sake of it, because I operate with a plan. So I'm not all over the place trying to look for votes and so on. I think the people elected me to serve, not to be a mascot, and I don't pretend with anyone. I am very straightforward. If we could solve an issue, we get it solved. I will call the President of the United States if I have to to make it happen. So I do that. Right?
I also wanted to ask you, you spoke a lot about what government has done, right, and some of the programs that have been put out, especially for youth. It's important to know that young people have been guided in the right direction. Yeah. Now, how effective are these programs?
Correct.
Right. How effective are they? We hear about them, but sometimes we still see a lot of work that needs to be done.
Right.
How effective are these programs from your point of view, sir?
Well, I can give you an example. For example, the TAMCC rate in terms of registration rate for this year has gone up again from the previous increase from the last 2 years. This is good because it is saying that the policy to have free tuition is actually increasing the ability for more people to access education. It's not going to happen overnight, and normally when government institutes a policy, it takes generally about 2 years, given the whole structure and system, change the law, you get different things, then based on the time of the year, etc., for you to see the impact. And we are satisfied that we are seeing the impact there. The other aspect is the question of training. Now, you have other institutions that are supporting training throughout the country, like Grace. You have other community initiatives that are constantly being rolled out, from St. Patrick to St. David to South to Northeast. Different initiatives where, on average, 20, 40 people are receiving training so that they can either become skilled and start a business or get a permanent job. This is important, and the private sector is also responding in a very positive way because they are putting out the ads, so they need people. So take away the substitute labor, and this is my concern when people talk about the other concerns that we have with forced labor and all these other things. We were setting up training under the guise of training and forcing people to work for years in positions that were available to be taken up by people looking for jobs. And so, in my humble opinion, I think this is a stark difference to what we face right now compared to what we were facing 3 years ago.
Training programs, scholarships, and so forth,
right?
And the job opportunities that are out there, especially for young people. I want to focus a lot on young people this morning for some reason, because it's always a passion to know that young people are helping, are doing things to help themselves, especially those at a particular age who may have left school. And sometimes we see them idling around, which we think they could have get themselves engaged in more things that are positive, and get them their mindset on a more positive track than going to the negatives. Because sometimes the negatives always seem to attract them more for some reason. Talk to me about some of the training programs that the government has put out. You being, of course, one of the younger ministers, you get to see more of these stuff happening. Talk to me about the job opportunities over there, the scholarships and so forth. How has young people been gravitating to these opportunities that are presented to them?
There's still some gray areas, and in particular, let's take the issue of scholarships, because you mentioned it earlier on. I think, in all honesty, while you have increased scholarships, if the scholarship is not 100% funded, it is still posing a challenge for a lot of Grenadians, right? Whether young or not so young. And the point is, I think we need to reach to the point where we have a comprehensive student loan package that is able to allow a young person or any Grenadian of the relevant age and have the ability to pursue higher education without burdening themselves and also burdening the state. We need to make the package attractive, one, and two, make it affordable so that it does not plunge you into some kind of debt after you complete. You go through all this stress, you study, you complete your degree, and now you still have to pay some kind of massive loan, etc. So I think the onus is upon the technocrats, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Finance, and all the other relevant stakeholders to come up with a program for that. Because while we have seen an increase in the scholarships being offered by this administration, while we have seen a number of different areas being opened up, so to speak, as opportunities for young people, there is still much more that we can do. And we accept that, because for us, we do not believe that enough people are living in Grenada and can make it in Grenada. We think we need more people living in Grenada to be able to really take us to the path to where we need to be. 110,000, 120, if all that is not enough to really carry the burden. So I think by and large, young people, while we have seen a decrease in the youth unemployment rate since we came into office, we still have much more to do, and young people seem to be latching on to the direction as to where we need to go. Now, the other challenge is the issue of this mindset, where some people are well embedded in their mindset that they believe that they cannot achieve more and that their only hope is to sit and wait for somebody to give them assistance. That is a dangerous defeatist approach, and it is something that I want to discourage young people against. You need to get up. Nobody ain't coming to save you. You have to save yourself. And when you put your foot forward, I guarantee you opportunities and doors are going to open. But you cannot sit down, complain, and expect a solution. So that mindset,
offer you a job,
that mindset, we really have to work on that. But by and large, the onus and responsibility, obligation in this instance, is on the government to really see how we could transform the environment, or rather create the environment for more jobs to be had. And just to end on that point, what we are seeing is that while the government itself may not necessarily be hiring the majority of people, but the private sector, as I mentioned, is responding by providing the jobs. They are looking for people to hire. Jobs are available.
As we end on that note, when we come back in the next segment, because we drew for a break, I want to talk about that real truth about the unemployment rate.
Right.
And how government what has government done to really change that? Because we hear in various stories been shredded about that from time to time. If you were able, so you would give me the real, they will say, look, the real just relates to that. Let's go when we come back. Stay with us, folks. To the point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. We're coming right back after the break. Don't touch it down.
Something powerful is coming to Glen customers. Smarter service, more convenience, a greener way to connect. Get ready for a better way to manage your electricity service. Coming soon. Glen, empowering you.
On Sunday, November the 9th from 5 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center, Legends Promotion presents the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert featuring the best of Grenada, along with 2 special guest artists. This edition promises to be extra special. Get ready, Grenada, to be blown with surprises at the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert, Sunday, November the 9th, 5 p.m. Grenada Trade Center. Stay tuned to GBN for more.
Are you ready to take charge of your money, build wealth, and protect your family's legacy? Then join us on October 9th, 2025 at Radisson Grenada Beach Resort for your Financial Future 2.0 Legacy, Literacy, and Liberation, a one-day financial summit designed to break cycles, build wealth, and leave a lasting legacy. You'll gain real-life budgeting hacks, a money mindset reboot, steps to create generational wealth, and practical tips on investing, estate planning, insurance, health, and business finance, all from expert speakers who know how to turn knowledge into action. With 2 inspirational keynotes, 3 powerful panel discussions, and 6 breakout sessions, you will leave with your personalized action plan for success. Don't wait. Secure your seat today. Tickets are EC $350 at disruptiveleadershipconference.com/YFF. Your Financial Future 2.0. Your next chapter starts here.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, once again to The Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. With me this morning, we have, of course, the Parliament representative for St. George Northeast, Ron RedHead, with us this morning here on today's edition of To The Point. Ron RedHead, welcome back once again. Yes. Before the break, I didn't mention, I want you to tell me that share with us, our listeners and viewers, you know, that truth about the unemployment rate. We hear in figures of different levels and different so forth, and different levels and so forth as relates to that. How has it changed since the NDC government assumed office? Right. How has that changed? Because we've been hearing that it was at a particular percentage. And sometimes we hear the opposition say, well, they had it at a low percentage. We hear in the government saying, no, they made it at a skyrocket level and now they have brought it to a different level. Tell me that whole truth about that unemployment rate in Grenada.
Right. So according to the data from the Ministry of Finance, it has suggested that since coming into office in 2022, the unemployment rate has decreased. Overall, in Grenada, it is closer to single digits, which is where we want to get it, meaning 9, that kind of thing, 9%. So we want to get it. This government is striving hard to bring the unemployment rate lower than it is. Now, I think the fundamental issue is the principle of people looking for work and can't find work, right? That is what ultimately determines the unemployment rate. So if you're capable, you're looking for work and you can't find, then you're unemployed. That is how it casts you. If you don't want work and you're looking for no work, then you're not unemployed. right? Tantamount to laziness.
I try to get you this
right. So meaning that's how the data is derived. The people who are actively looking for work and can't get a job, that they are cast in the net of unemployment. Right. So then you have now the issue bigger, which is the real unemployment rate of the unproductive. But what our argument is simple as it relates to this is that, look, if 2-3 years ago, the people in the community who were not looking for a 8-to-4 job or was not looking for a job is now gainfully employed as either a contractor, a small business operator, they're doing landscaping, they cleaning and so on. They are now gainfully employed. They may be underemployed, but they are now gainfully employed and earning an income. So even those who are not looking are now gainfully employed. They're active. They are part of the formal sector and economy of Grenada. And you still have people who leaving the school system looking for work. They can't find one. Some instances they need experience and so on. So they are normally categorized as unemployed. Yes. That is how this system is, the ILO, in terms of its standard. People who are actively looking for work but can't find work. That is the unemployed. That, since we came into office, has been decreasing. Yeah. And our deliberate policy is to say that we need to create the environment for businesses to thrive, whether it be private sector or individual or in a sense the bigger businesses for them to thrive so that they could provide employment. In fact, in my constituency alone, I think I can count maybe about, give or take, 8 new businesses that I'm aware of that started in St. George Northeast and is providing employment for people throughout the entire country since we came into office. Now, not all of them may have had something directly to do with me, but if you create the environment, I'm saying, and businesses are providing jobs, that's the best thing that you want from an economic standpoint. The other thing is that as it relates to this question of the unemployment rate, even the Imani trainees and people who were working in the government service on this contract, they had the issue of job security. This administration has now commenced the operation to be able to regularize. So teachers, people in the medical field, they are getting the opportunity to be regularized. Now, I do apologize. The Minister of Education is going to give the full number of regularized teachers once he appears on this show or speaks to the media in time to come. But for now, we could safely say that the number is over about 200 teachers have been regularized. And the point is, going towards that trend means that they would not be actively, because you could be employed, as I mentioned, but still looking for a little work because you're underemployed, you figure you're underutilized, etc. So they now getting that job element of job security. They now could start focusing on doing what they're doing. And then the others who are not regularized, you could then be able to get them to a point of regularization, or they themselves may feel comfortable if they're getting access to training and they're upgrading their capacity to move on to a higher paying or a better paying or more secure job. And so for me, where we sat 2-3 years ago in terms of the unemployment situation, there's a vast improvement. Again, we always caution this because we have to manage expectations. It is not at the levels where we are satisfied and so much comfortable, but the trend is moving down, contrary to what you're hearing.
Honorable, the visibility of it plays an important role also. How visible it looks, especially for regular citizens.
Right.
And sometimes regular citizens, like inclusive of myself, may say, well, I'm not seeing that. So we still may ask a question. What is government really doing, and how does government for certain knows that unemployment rate has decreased a whole lot? Have you get my direction where I'm going?
Yeah.
You understand? Because sometimes we may not see the visibility. I may see that same individual or individuals in various communities that I know going around their way of life the same way they've been doing it for the last 3 to 4 years. Knowing them and what they do is not a form of employment to a point.
Right.
Yes, they may do 1 or 2 things around the place to gain some finance, but it's not a form of serious employment, not a serious 84 as some folks would say. So we look for the visible part of it to prove, well, I'm seeing for the last day every 50, 60 people in my community going to work or have a job some way or the other, whether it's in the security field or some other way of so sometimes that's a concern that regular citizens may have.
Yeah, observation.
You know how you observe the
observation plays a critical part. But the thing with observation is that it is not the factual data. So you always have to try and get that. And that's why I'm saying the last survey that was done, one was done under our tenure. I can't recall the exact year, so don't quote me on it. But it suggested a decrease in the unemployment rate, and which is good. Again, as I mentioned, the other thing that the government is doing is to help empower the business environment so that the private sector, which it should be like that, can be able to provide employment for the vast majority of Grenadians seeking employment.
You know, the social, safety nets for individuals and various communities around the island is also important.
Yes.
How has government been able to manage that lately, and how is it going around? Because there are a lot of individuals who need those assistance. Those who, you didn't mention the folks employed, the underemployed, and so forth. Speak about that, but there are a lot of people who have that dependency on government for some reason or the other. And we know there are the safety net programs that government has. How has that been going so far?
Well, if I am to share part in my own view, I think we need to upgrade the whole question of safety net and talk about social security. And one such policy initiative that the administration has taken has been to upgrade or amend the legislation dealing with NIS to be able to provide for unemployment benefits in circumstances where you qualify. Because it is not a free go, it is not something that is just an open sepulchre and anybody who just unemployed could be able to benefit, but there are conditions to which you can apply for the unemployment benefit and get it now under NIS, and this is something that this administration introduced. The second aspect is that we must never see social safety nets as a means to service poverty. Because what that does is, in a sense, helps to strengthen the capacity to absorb the poverty situation, meaning that if Tanti Jane getting a little help here and the help is almost indefinite, Mary Jane seeing Tanti Jane getting that, Mary Jane now want that same support. Yes. And while Mary Jane might be somebody who have the capacity to be a productive citizen, but because Tanti Jane getting it, Mary Jane now say, I ain't looking for no work. If she could get seed, I want seed too, and this kind of thing. So there is always the need to manage how it is distributed. There are people, GTI being honest with you, in some instances, they catch a little hard times, and we have to be real about that. So there are people who need some kind of temporary and almost, I dare say, immediate support. We just cannot pretend. This is why we introduced the $10,000 to members of parliament. If your bill, according to the leader of the opposition, if the gentleman bill was $40, she could pay it, and it reached $200. She has the money, she could pay it for him, and I hope she did, not just come on the platform and speak about it. But these are the mechanisms. It's a safety net. But as mentioned, you don't want to create safety nets just to build up poverty and, keep increasing the number of people requiring safety nets. What we need to do is to be reducing that, but to ensure that whenever the opportunity exists, that they could get the assistance if needed and if desperately needed at that.
Well, there's another concern that is affecting us all in Grenada today. Inflation. We know it's a worldwide issue right now, and there's inflation around the world and so forth. The cost of living and everything else it's continuing to rise. You go to the supermarket this week, it was at a particular price. You go next week, it's at a different price. I'm an avid coffee drinker. I went last week and I was like, I had to stop. You understand? Just because the cost of it. You understand? 1 week it was at this price, and I go just the next. Because I drink it on a regular, I may need one every week. And I went last week, but it was at one price. Go back this weekend, and it realized at another price. And I took it a vast difference of almost $3 to $4. You understand? So it's important to do. What does government have? What actions, which I should say, has government taken, to kind of cushion these effects that it's having on the society as a whole?
Right. Well, I'll start off with talking about petrol, for example. So, for example, we have reduced the petrol tax by $2.50 since coming into office. We have also seen the removal of the cap of gasoline. And let me tell you what that is doing. Now, I have heard different people argue it differently. Now, the cap, what it used to do was to peg the price at $15.
Yes.
If it goes up, it is absorbed. If it goes down, it is not transferred to the consumer. So once you have that cap, you are removing the opportunity to get the transferable reduction in the cost of gasoline because you set it or peg it at $15. What we did was remove that. Given all the unforeseen circumstances, and removing the cap now helped to have consumers now start to absorb, in principle, the reduced cost of gasoline. Now, if we are to take average, at least in the last 2 years, gas prices have been trending downward. And the majority of occasions, whenever it is announced, is always closer to about $14. I am confident that if this trend continues, we could see gas prices reaching as low as $13 in time to come. But I'm saying that is one measure, and you have to monitor it. The Ministry of Finance is doing their utmost best to make sure that they're on top of it. They could predict, or forecast is a better word, and to be on top of it. If it becomes too high, they can intervene. The other thing is that we have zero-rated VAT on a number of items in the last budget. At one previous, we did that as well. We have seen so far that the external factor of inflation, right? Some people use the consumer price index, etc. But that is something that is largely out of our control. Now, we do not determine the cost of goods from the international market. The only responsibility we have is when it comes here, how do we apply the various taxes, fees, etc. on it? And then we also reduce the freight and cap the rate of freight to 2019 levels. Now, some people may argue and say that we need to do more, but if these key initiatives, we believe, did not exist, it would have been a total different picture. And so we have intervened. The government is giving up a tremendous amount of revenue in some instances, and I will get to this whole question of revenue in comparison to last year versus now. And just take, for example, just for the passage of Hurricane Beryl, materials, all these other things were given for 1 year free. And some other stuff where people imported stuff. So obviously, there would be overall a decrease in the revenue. But to compare last year, which is an outlier, and I say outlier to mean that last year had a record number of CBI backlog applicants being processed, and so the revenues shot up. But that was only because of the backlog of processing the CBI applicants, particularly from Russia, and that has since stopped. So now that we are back to normal in this year, the fact remains that based on the estimates for this year, Grenada's revenue is performing well. So it has nothing to do with in comparison to last year. Last year gone already. And the point is the revenue collections. You have to ask the question, based on what we estimated for 2025, is it on par or is it more or is it less? And in this instance, it is more. So we are doing well in terms of collecting revenues, notwithstanding this I would say unfortunate comparison that is always constantly being made to the previous year. But the Ministry of Finance does
is it wrong to make that comparison, sir?
It's not wrong, but it's just that you can't make a final decision on something that represents an outlier. Because if you were to compare in all the previous years, that 1 year might just see a spike in revenue. But to say that if you want to compare this year now with that as the base to say, well, things going downhill and so on, that's not true. So the trend may actually be going up in terms of revenue collections as opposed to the comparison with the outlier. The outlier would just skew your results partially just to say that the previous year had a peak or a large spike, rather, in revenue collections. But it doesn't mean that the country is not collecting revenue. That's not true. Yeah.
Okay. We drew for a break. Let's take a come back. Of course, we certainly have much more when we come back. Of course, in the next segment also, we will give the opportunity to our listeners and viewers. If you have a question or two you may like to ask, feel free to do so in the next segment. Stay with us, folks. To The Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. We coming right back.
Served Grenada for decades. We are the number one.
Goosebumps ready? The biggest party in sports is back. It's Republic Bank CPL 2025. Bowls off August 14th to September 21st. 34 matches, 6 teams, 6 nations. Your Caribbean cricket frenzy. From big sixes to deadly yorkers, catch every boundary, every wicket, every moment. Live on GBN TV and Classic Radio. This is not just cricket. This is CPL 2025. Don't miss a ball.
GBN's broadcast of CPL 2025 is made possible by Republic Bank, Hubbards, Glen, Echo Blue Limited, Demerara Mutual Life, Answer Coatings, and Flow.
On Sunday, November the 9th from 5 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center, Legends Promotion presents the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert featuring the best of Grenada, along with 2 special guest artists. This edition promises to be extra special. Get ready, Grenada, to be blown with surprises at the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert, Sunday, November the 9th, 5 p.m. Grenada Trade Center. Stay tuned to GBN for more.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. Of course, it's to the point here on Classic Radio, GBN TV, and I'll be entertaining your calls from our listeners and viewers shortly. Honorable, I want to ask you this question, though. We closely coming to the end of 2025. Mm-hmm. Your time is fine. I think we get in 12 hours per day now. To be frank about it. Yeah. Is there any major planned by the National Democratic Party, of course, for the remainder of this year?
Yes, certainly.
Party talk this time around?
Yeah, we have some announcements that we would make during the later course of this year. Mm-hmm. We also have some very nice initiatives that we are working on from a party standpoint. Some community, some that we believe can help the wider membership of the party to grow and improve, and in particular the youth. So we have a number of initiatives coming up. I am not at liberty to give out any specifics at this time, but I could just say, look forward. We have some things coming up.
All right, interesting to know that. So, we all know. Let's talk about some accomplishment by the National Democratic Congress for the year thus far. 3 years in office and plus going. Right. Talk to me about some of the accomplishment that you think that may have stood out thus far, by the National Democratic Congress.
Right. Well, I think our implementation rate, we have seen an increase, and so far the reviews of the budget is saying so. In particular with the capital projects. They are ongoing. They are successful. Majority of them, schools are being built. Roads are being expanded, drains, etc. NAWASA has taken off with the UK SIF project finally, after years of no movement, but we see movement now, and we are satisfied that they are doing a pretty good job. In fact, just this morning I had to call a NAWASA rep to be able to intervene to resolve a bus pipe up my side. So far, since the water pressure has increased, all the pipes just keep busting and so on. But they are doing a good job. I must say this is my observation. I have seen a stark improvement in the ability to respond and also the quality of work that they are doing. Maybe the challenge is that when the road is dug up, to repave it, that's a cause for concern. Another area that we are happy, and the Ministry of Infrastructure would be announcing it soon, is this issue of having the capacity to now do asphalt on island. So they would announce this because road networks and the upgrade and paving of road is something that when we came into office, we believed was woefully lacking and still is. And therefore, we have done something about it. It could not happen overnight. It could not happen with a snap of a finger, and we have worked overtime. In particular, the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, has worked overtime, and Minister of Infrastructure, to make this a reality. The other thing we are satisfied with and happy is so far the recovery process in Carriacou is all but completed in terms of that initial 1 year plus effort required by the state to get Carriacou Petit Martinique back up to the level to which it ought to be. Now, we are not satisfied with every aspect. We still have some outstanding aspects, and the MP is of concern with that. We would be consistently doing reviews, doing assessments. We would host a town hall meeting up in Carriacou to be able to discuss where we are at now. So far, all of the challenges that emerged after the passage of Hurricane Beryl, so far, if not all, but the majority have been dealt with, and we are satisfied. The sticking point for us is the question of the housing, which is going okay, given the limitations and given the capacity to which the workmen and the ministry and other stakeholders have to operate.
All right. We're moving along. We have 12 minutes climbing before the top of the hour this morning, which this segment I will give the opportunity to our listeners and viewers to ask a question or two to the MP this morning. And I beg of you to, of course, be brief with your questions, or if you're making a comment, be brief with it, please, so we can accommodate as many callers as possible. Let's take our first caller. Caller, you're live by our WhatsApp. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, GT.
Good morning.
Good morning, family.
Morning.
Always a pleasure to see you. All right. Okay, Ron, I have three concerns, and I'd like you to talk about. Right. Yesterday, we had the guy you put a good licking on, and then he was saying that that shops, business place and thing been closing down because the lack of job, higher unemployment. I'd like you to speak to that. The second thing I would like you to speak to about again, government spend lots of money to send students and Grenadians basically to study in different professional, right? And then when they come back after all the years, we still end up with a brain drain. We see most of them go to certain Caribbean countries, the US, Canada, whatever, especially our doctors. You know what I mean? And one of the issues that was coming up, a lot of people have been speaking about why we having sanction on our finance minister because of the Cuban brigade, that goes around and helping out with the medical season. Session, and if we had Grenadians, we send it overseas, remaining Grenadians, we would not be having the Cubans, neither getting Nigerians and then. So I want to know what government have in place now to stop this kind of behavior where we send students over and then we're not getting the service. Our tax money is being paid, and yet we're not getting the service as we're supposed to. And the last thing I want to talk about, that Grenada Day. We had Grenada Day in New York City, and it was an embarrassment because if I don't have $20, I cannot go to a park. And last Sunday we had Kayak Day, which was open. It was free. The music, the food, the drinks, everything was free. I want to know, what can government do, or if government giving any funds to enhance Grenada Day and let us have it in Seaview in a park instead of we have it in a place that if Grenadians do not have a $20 or $30, they cannot enter a park to celebrate their own heritage. This is ridiculous. So can you speak on this? And family, have a good day. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
Thank you, caller.
That caller seems to really have you're really upset about that Grenada.
Yeah, and let me reply. So to your first question about the question of shops closing down, etc., I would just reply in this manner. I would like to congratulate Cultural Ambassador Wilt Cambridge Talpri for opening his venue, Lime Lyman Lights,
yes,
right? So he's doing a wonderful job up there. In fact, the place is always busy for the carnival season. Was too much, to the point where I know residents call me and say, "Oh Lord, that speaker booming too much." And so, on a lighter note, it's providing job opportunities. So I don't know that shops are closing down and they are not being replaced. I want to also commend Brother Harry and his wife, who just recently opened a new business place, an ice cream parlor or a sweet treat parlor, right in Mongay, underneath the downstairs apartment of Brother George in the community of Mongay near Twinbridge. They have recently opened, so they are doing pretty okay. I see other companies remain viable in the area of Tempe. I'm seeing a new company setting up shop just now. They're doing renovation to a building. I am seeing another one by going up by Jumbi, where the school used to be. I see that place being renovated, and hopefully it will be open soon to, I assume, a new company that is coming on stream there. So notwithstanding that we see difficulties existing, the truth is, and reality is, it is the normal process of the forces of the market. Some people have to shut down businesses for various reasons, not necessarily because the government didn't do X, Y, and Z. And so this urge to always blame government for the shutting down of businesses and so on is becoming very stale and outdated. The second question as relates to the investment in education and the ability for them to return, I would say this, that the truth is they pay in Grenada and maybe even in some Caribbean countries is not enough into what people go out and study and their capacity and their training. We have to also address that there is a mismatch where that is concerned. However, if any student is signing a bond with the government of Grenada that they're getting the scholarship on the premise that they must return and complete the bond, I think the responsibility and onus is upon them to fulfill that. It is always a pride and joy to give back to your country. These are part of the sacrifices, and the truth is that, in a sense, in principle, don't bite the hands that feed you, but do it in a manner where this is your country and you want to give back irrespective whether or not you had a bond or not. Right? Okay. I think there was a final question about Grenada Day, but I think that is best applicable to Minister of Foreign Affairs, Culture, and so on. So I would pass that information on to them. Okay. Hopefully they could give a response.
All right. We do have another caller. Caller, thank you for your patience. Let's hear from you.
Yeah, good morning, Honorable RedHead.
Morning.
I think part of the problem in Grenada, although let me first say, I try to stay away from party politics. I mean, I am not a person who would pretend I don't have my own bias. But the thing about business closing down has been an old habit of the NMP. They did that under the Nicholas Baffett regime. I have an article from the EU in which this guy, the former leader, said everything was so bad, people were falling down. And everything is a classic thing that is used anyway. I'm concerned, though, that I think our approach to things, to how we do life here, need to be re-examined. For instance, we may give help to individual people to do business, but the culture of individualism is one of the things that's killing us. What we need to do is cultivate cooperative, collaborative kind of experience, so that even when we send people on train, and in spite of the fact that the pay might not be too good, people will have a sense of responsibility in coming back and giving back. In this respect, based on a conversation I was having with a farmer recently, and you were suggesting that we bring in people from here to help in the farming business, I think we need to create a system where people do some kind of national service, and maybe those students get credit from doing those things. Years ago, Chester Humphrey, after Hurricane Ivan, I suggest that TAMCC students go and help the farmers to clear the place and so on. We need to seriously, because we don't get anywhere. I mean, don't forget, a lot of the money that we pay, a lot of it is grants and that kind of thing. We can't rely on those things. I'm not trying to charge the government for them because it has happened since invasion. So we need to find a way that we become more productive. And I am suggesting that we take the approach where corporatism, in which you encourage cooperatives, because that will stand a better chance. And you mentioned a word earlier, Honorable, the whole issue of mindset. We really have to work on our mindset. Some people might say we're aiming at brainwashing, but we have to do with mindset. We have to help people to look inward and upward. So this is something, and in this case, we need to work with TAMCC. We need to work with maybe the business sector. I don't have faith in them at all in spite of what is being said. I think they're part of the problem in Grenada. But we need to find a way that we would even get people to be connected to the community. It has people going and study, and so they have no connection with the community. So we need to find a way. I mean, I know I can't say all that I could say in this one little piece.
Yeah, colleague, I was just about to tell you, of course, if we could take a wrap now, please. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Caller did say a whole lot there.
Yeah, but points taken. I think ultimately what I would say quickly, we need to stop operating in silos to be able to resolve problems. Sometimes Ministry of Labour need to talk to Ministry of Legal Affairs or Ministry of Finance in a more in-depth manner to find a solution to this issue of availability of jobs and getting people to be productive citizens.
All right, we do have another caller. Caller Live, good morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Telesford, and greetings to your guests.
Good morning,
sir. Just one brief observation before I go on to the question that I should ask. I heard many nice things coming about how Grenada is functioning and so on today, but I recall there was a very powerful economist who worked with the major institutions, international institutions, Anouk Shah, who in his dissection of the policies of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund finally concluded that their policies added to poverty in the smaller countries and the so-called third world developing countries. Two of the things that were identified, if I were to go a little faster, is that any time your streets and alleyways of your town, your sidewalks and so on, are laden with hawkers of what was considered to be then the informal economy, that's a sign of poverty. He also stated clearly that any time you have a situation where maybe annually your social safety net expands, that is also a sign of poverty. So to that I'll say no more except to say that perception can never ever be reality. Now to my question. As a member of parliament elected to upgrade and to make the laws of the country, Mr. RedHead, sir, I ask this. After your studying of the Constitution, which you ought to have done, are you satisfied, and can you tell us with all confidence that you are satisfied that after studying Section 39, subsections 1 and 5, Section 111, subsection 1, bullet point 8, and studying the schedules, above all, Schedule 1, you are convinced that Schedule 3 can be separated as a standalone document outside of 111, so that those two laws that were created and approved in the parliament in which you use it are in effect legitimate, and with legal validity? I trust that you understand my question. Don't go off on any tangent or warning you like I did the last time. Answer my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller.
Yes, Citizen Rulu, I would answer your question. I would say yes, and I would say it for this reason. Right? You clearly stated don't go off on a tangent, but I must give a response. You know I have the greatest level of respect for you. Remember, you argued in the past that the very Constitution that you are now vehemently defending there with that particular section, you argued in the past that it was illegitimate, that as far as you were concerned, this was never brought into force, as you said, through Parliament. I disagreed then, and I also disagree now with your rationale. And remember, my argument was simple. I said that if this has been in place for over 50 years now, it is very difficult to make the case to say that it is illegitimate or not legitimate. I am saying, in this regard, your question or concern about the changing of the oath, it does not require the issue of a referendum. It simply is targeting the members of parliament and people who hold very high offices who have to swear allegiance to the king. This is an amendment that affords our members of parliament, legislators, the other people identified. It's not a huge number. It's the 15 plus the senators plus some other groups of people, I think the Integrity Commission or whoever else, who have to swear an oath to the British monarchy to now swear that allegiance to the people of Grenada. The lawyers have argued that it does not require the referendum. All it requires is a simple majority in the parliament to which these individuals are affected. I am saying that I disagree with you that this is a source of contention or issue. In fact, one of the Scotland MPs has even cited Grenada's move coming out of the oath of allegiance to the British monarchy to start a call for it, and that is in, as they would say, Scotland Yard. That's in the King's backyard, and they also want to stop swearing allegiance to the British monarchy and start swearing it to the people who they serve.
Okay. We do have another caller via WhatsApp. Good morning, you're welcome. Let's hear from you.
Hello, good morning, GT. Good morning to Mr. RedHead as well. Yesterday I had a call in also Mr. RedHead. I don't know if you listen to the program. I spoke to my the representative for the New National Party, Mr. Olivier, and I had to have a conversation, and no, this is the balance, because Northeast, we tend to benefit from whoever is in power and representing us. Leave exception for Mr. Tobias Clement. That was the worst representative that I have ever had and voted for. No, Mr. RedHead, you're doing a lot inside of the Northeast, and I'm not saying that because of the fact that I support the New National Party, but I'm speaking on the grounds of progress. When things are happening, you have to recognize that. But you're doing some work in Boca, I could see in Tempe, the other existing areas. You have done a little in Willis, and hopefully we could get more done with the road. I'm not here to apply too much pressure, as I said. In terms of the road infrastructure, there is more to be done. I also want to congratulate your government, and I had to tell Mr. Olivier that yesterday, despite being an NMP, that the increase that you all have given, my sister is a beneficiary of it under the Imani program from $700 to $1,200. So I congratulate you all for that. Now, this is the type of leadership that I'm looking forward to see moving forward, because right now, as it lies coming for 2027, I don't know. I'm not going to go out there and vote on the basis of, let's say, party. I'm voting in 2027 based on the people that I find do enough for my constituency. And I know you will be there. Hopefully, Mr. Oliver will be there. I even make a recommendation. It's not mine recommendation, but it comes from others as well, that we think he should run into Northwest. But that's what ORM, we're going to deal with that. So, Mr. RedHead, what I'm calling on to tell you this morning is to thank so far for what you're doing for Northeast. So I'm going to sit down, and they're not going to give you the recommendation or give you the flowers where it is needed. You're doing some work. There's much more to be done. The Vendome playing field, we thank you for that, because it's something that we didn't even expecting to see what happening now. But we thank you, Horeb. There is some things that has been done there. And I'm calling you from right here in front of Miss Tita shop. Same place. And what I'm giving you out here is to come out some more into the field. I know these days you may be busy. You don't have a portfolio in Parliament, and that is a plus, because that helped the constituency a lot. Some may not know it, but you are able to be found at any point in time. We see you, but now we're putting in the call so that you could come in a little bit more and continue to develop Northeast. Because if you succeed in Northeast, everyone in Northeast succeed. And you doing more than what Tobias has done. And I voted for this guy, so I have the right and the authority to say it. So I want to see you succeed in Northeast, because if Northeast succeed, we succeed. If it was...
Caller, I want you to take another 10 seconds and wrap, please.
that would have been the same conversation. As it relates to the Constitution, I hope in a couple of years, because the process started in 1974, in a couple of years we could finally move to that stage where we could speak of referendum. But all what is happening now with the oath of allegiance, in my own belief and understanding, all this is things that should have been done a while back. But hopefully we could get to that day when we could say we're free of the colonial system, the British, and hopefully maybe some of us in Grenada could be educated so we could trace our tribe as to get our rightful name, because we're not even carrying our rightful name, not surname. We're still British when you look at it. So,
Caller, I want to thank you. Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's take another caller before we wrap. You're already way over time already. Yeah. Let's take our final caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning. Welcome.
Yes, good morning. I just want to ask Honorable RedHead, while the government of Grenada has announced that it started discussions with the U.S. government on the visa issue, are you aware of any talks with the Cuban government on this issue? Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller. Thank you. That's your question, caller? That's all?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And that will be our final caller for the morning.
So I'll respond in this manner. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they have put out 2 releases thus far, and you can follow up with them to get a direct response on that question.
Okay. Honorable Reynolds, it's come to the time of the morning. We're already at least 10 minutes after the hour already. I want to thank you a whole lot for being on today's program. I know it may give you opportunity. Anything you want to do as an outro before we take a wrap for today?
Right. Well, just to continue to encourage Grenadians, let's stay the course. Let's do what we have to do. Let's continue to build. As school is going to be reopened next week, I wish all the students the very best, the teachers, the parents who is going to be putting out the effort to get the children ready and so on. I wish them all the very best. The bus drivers, the vendors who would be providing meals, etc. for the students. I wish them the very best, and let's continue to build Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit-Matou.
All right. Honorable, I want to thank you once again. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program. I hope we have you back as soon as possible. Of course, we could discuss a whole lot more. Yeah. You will get the time. You will get the time. Thank you once again, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, folks, that's where we take a wrap for today's edition. I want to apologize to all the other callers who were calling and didn't get the opportunity to. You know how the lines is at times. So until then, have a good one, folks. That's where we say goodbye for today. That's where we say goodbye.